Welcome back to the Sound for More channel. Today I have the pleasure to introduce you to a Microwave 1 from Waldorf Music, and I'm going to do a bit of a critique, review, or a honest review of the device. Before we continue, I would like to remind my viewers to subscribe, as it helps with growing the channel. Thank you very much. Additionally, if you would like to support what I do, and if you like what I do, then please make sure to support the channel, and there are different ways you can do that. Please do check the description on any video, really, which shows you how you can support the channel. Thank you again. So, Microwave 1. This is a faithful emulation according to Waldorf. And yes, it is based on wavetable synthesis. It has been, the original device was created in collaboration with Wolf and Palm, which is of course, the inventor of wavetable in terms of synthesis. So there it is, 8 voice polyphonies, which for me, I find that a little bit strange. I know that Waldorf plays the point of authenticity, but nowadays in 2024, at the time of recording this video, that is a little bit strange. I know you can say that you want to keep to the faithful a faithful emulation, therefore you keep the same voices, but it comes with a concept of multi, where you can layer multiple instruments up to 8. Therefore, if you have only 8 voice polyphonies, it means that when you have 8 layers, one on top of each other, it becomes very much monophonics, which for me is a bit of a con. It works as a standalone version, as you can see here. But if you go inside AUM, you can also load it as a AUv3. There it is, Microwave 1. Now, one of the things that you notice straight away is the UI. For me, the UI is one of the biggest problems with this app. So this is how it presents itself on the screen. Of course, you maximize it, but even when it is maximized, look at the bottom. It cut through the bottom, so that is not good. So the only way to get it to work is to really, you have to keep the aspect ratio yourself, like so. Say, like so, until you find the optimal aspect ratio, so the proportion between height and width that shows the entire screen. Okay, otherwise it will start to cut. So if you start to go to the right, like so, it expands also vertically, and therefore it cuts the bottom, and you cannot see anymore the pitch bend, the modulation wheel here. So it's not really great in terms of the way that it presents itself as an AUv3. So there is more work that is required in my view. But let's go back to the standalone version. Now, I've just run it. It came up with the last version of the preset loaded. In this case, it doesn't have any category here and any preset selected. Now, let's go up here, click. You can see the way it presents the menus it looks a little bit old-fashioned in my view. At least that is my personal view. And it comes here with factory single, which you can now select, which means is a categorization. It would have been better if they actually surrounded that to show that that is the header, instead of being like that. The same on factory multi here, and the new factory and user bank as well. So if you select a bank like so, it doesn't select the first preset, odd for me again. So you have to go in, you cannot select single, of course, if you think that is a preset. Of course it's not, and of course you need to select the first one yourself. I like that you have movement, for example, on the filter up here, and also if you have one of the envelopes here in terms of filter and volume, you can see what it is in terms of envelope. So it's great to see that you see at which point in the envelope it is. You can see also animation on the filter as well. But then when you apply modulators on other controls, you don't see that. So you don't see if you apply, for example, a modulator or like an LFO against a wave, a selection of a wave here, you don't really see it. Additionally, here on the volume, it seems to go red here, which is to represent too high as a volume is hot. The first time I saw that, I thought it was a sign of modulation, but it is not. Indeed. You see this empty circle here, this full circle here. The first time that I found that a little bit odd. Now I can see the logic of being empty here perhaps and full on the other side, but I found that a little bit odd to start with. Okay, this one I like because you have plus and minus in terms of influence, which is great in terms of the way envelope here. So you can go negative or positive, which is great. That is why you have this minus and plus. They look a little bit like screwdrivers to me, but as type of images. So I'm not sure on that. Also, if you double click, instead of reset the control, the diode to the default. No, it comes up always with this menu where you have to select set to default, which is a bit of a pain in my view. So double click each one and you have to select to default. Of course, you can set it to last loaded, which is an additional option, bonus, and you can also go for learn MIDI, which is great. I also like the fact here on the wavetable, it is red now, the position, and if I press a key, it becomes white, and you can see the animation here as well as we go through in a moment. Right, so up here as well, you have buttons, previous and next. I find these, when you click on previous, see, it's not going anywhere, so it's not circular, it's not going back to the mug here. So it just stops at the top, right, which is interesting. There is hardly any changes on the button. I suppose, in terms of image, I suppose that is to replicate the original device, but I find the controls a little bit like old-fashioned for a synth created in 2024, but again, maybe it's playing the authenticity there. So click next, it goes to the next one, of course, which is great. Again, I find it a bit strange. You change here a bank, and it doesn't select anything, so you're still playing the previous one, and you need to select next to go into it. So the navigation to me is not really that great. There are some really nice presets. But this is odd as well. So if I press a key with my finger here, and then I move the mouse cursor, it just hold on that, which is... So I find that a little bit strange as well in the way that it behaves between mouse cursor and touch compared to other application that is more seamless in other apps that I've seen from other developers. In terms of sound, as I'm saying, is actually quite nice. But you see, the mouse get in the way if I'm using the fingers, so I have to stop using the mouse and use the fingers or an external controller. So otherwise, it gets in the way, it overlaps. So if I'm holding with a finger on the keyboard here and then I move the mouse, it changes the note. Bizarre. The sound is quite clean, but I noticed that in order to obtain that nice clean sound, you have to bring down the filter quite a bit. Otherwise, they tend to sound quite metallic. I like that you can do like so. You can exercise on that pressure poly touch, which is great. That is nice, and you can see it in operation because, for example, at the moment we are in main here. If I go to oscillator number 1 here, and here it says pitch 1 modulation, and increase that like so. It says source LFO1. Instead of maximo, I'm going to say poly after touch. Then I move up. You can hear that modulation coming in, which is great. Again, in terms of UI, again, I'm not sure. I would have put this logo here at the top. There is a lot of wasted space here at the top, and I would have given more space to the controls here. And these almost look like cut on the left and right hand side. Yes, you can move them up and down, which is great. You have a modulation wheel here, which is great. And the pitch bend, that is fantastic. Now, if you press the menu here, you can call for an analyzer, which is great here. But I find interesting that there is some empty space on the right hand side. And the first time I was looking for a close button, but there isn't. So you need to go and press on another controls. Like in this case, the way envelope, which has a number point, which you can set as a time, and then also you can set as a level, which is fantastic, which is great. The same you can do a little bit on the filter envelope, volume envelope, and here you have the LFO. So you have LFO1 with more controls than LFO2. Again, a bit strange in terms of the difference of controls. I would have made them the same. And again, there was space here. But again, it might be the FIFO emulation. Here you can see as well, when I moved to oscillator number 1, that you see the wavetable here. But then here you see the position. So you can click and hold, and you can move the position. You can see also the dial here moving, which is great. But then again, it lets you down a little bit in some of the controls. Yeah, I don't find them really intuitive, to be honest. But anyway, let's come back to it. Here you have an init, so you can initialize a single or a multi. So let's initialize a single. You can see here, it tells you, the control table, what is made of, which is great in terms of different position, different factory preset. If you want to edit, it says factory table resonant has been copied. Please select the user table and perform paste table from this menu. I don't understand why it could have not copied and opened it into a new one itself, instead of having me to actually paste. Again, I find that a bit odd, really. But anyway, so I need to remember now that it is copied in the clipboard, which is a bit not intuitive for me. Okay, interesting here, it says solo off. You can put solo on here. You could have put a button here as well, or somewhere else, or making it a little bit more specific. I found that bizarre as well. You can change the type of wavetable here, which is great. But again, look how the menu opens up, right? Because it is the first one selected. The menu is down here, and it shows you here an arrow, which of course you can move up. Then, of course, it is left on, but at the moment, which is great. But if you don't use a mouse cursors and you click on it with your fingers, actually, as soon as you move up and down, it disappears, which is not great. I also find a little bit messy here. You have user here in terms between others, which wavetable, which are actually named. Again, I found that a little bit strange. In terms of menu, again, you can have access to a calibration editor, which is great. Use a wavetable editor, and there it is. And here you can bring up the different user wavetable, and then you can click edit. You don't have a lot of options here. You can have sine, triangle, square, so lucky, and then you can load one from either oscillator 1 and 2 and also copy. But at least the basics are there. And again, that might be playing in terms of authenticity. But again, this is an initialize single, which I'm initializing again, and there is no category here and no preset. I would expect that there is no preset, but no a category. So if you press next and previous, nothing happens, which I find bizarre. So of course you can click save, but why doesn't it go inside my user already? All right, and then I click save. So for me, that seems like missing, really. I like here, if you click on the Waldorf and it changes to the classical logo, which is really, really nice. Like the controls here, which moves between the different wavetable, which is really great. Now, if you go to main, you can see oscillator 1 and 2, a bit of a wavetable, a bit of the filter, where you have cutoff, resonance. You have here the representation based on frequency and decibel, which is really great, helps a lot. And then here you can act on how much you want on the filter, from the filter envelope, the environment envelope, and the envelope for velocity, and the key track as well, which is great. You can add noise. Okay, you have then volume and pan, gliding in terms of doing portamento, which is really great. And you can change the tuning as well. Here you have access to octave. Again, if you press here the button, it rotates between the top and the bottom, but you can also go in itself and change it, which in itself I thought, okay. Interesting. I would have not implemented it like that myself, but anyway, it works. You have a detuning here, and you have semitone, and here you have wave envelope influence, and then of course you can change the position here. You can see that it is animated in terms of the position on the wavetable, and then of course you have the volume here. So between this volume here and this volume here, you can adjust between you can do mix between the first and the second oscillator, right? Okay, so again, a little bit more detail here. You can have some additional options here, particularly for the wave. You can decide, for example, the start position, the key tracking. So you have a little bit more here. Of course, you can change the wave in terms of control table, and then here you have modulation that you can apply to the pitch, and modulation you can apply to wave 1. And it's very simple. You set the intensity here, then the source, you click here, and so it's a predefined source. Of course, this is what you say. So LFO 1, 2, but you have a lot of them, which is great. And then you can scale it up and down. And interesting, you can scale it up and down with a maximum level, with a minimum level, or with the LFO 1 itself, or another LFO. So that's quite cool. And then of course, let's move this way, right in the middle, like so. And actually this is on the pitch, so let's remove that on the pitch. Let's do it on the wave itself here, and we put LFO 1 here. So you can see that it is moving there. And then of course you can go to LFO 1 and adjust the rate. See, it's almost exponential. I find it interesting that on the LFO there is not a bipolar or unipolar selection. Of course, you can set it to sync. To the host, you have different shape. You can humanize it. You have the symmetry here, I suppose. And you can see it's going up there. And you can get it to go down there. But at the moment, if I reset it to default, look, the position is in the middle of the wavetable and is only going up, right? Then, of course, I can change the modulation here to be negative, and it will go down. How do you make it to go up and down? Well, for example, you can select here for modulation wheel, and then you change the intensity here. And that is how you do it in terms of typical up and down from that position inside the wavetable. Again, to me, that was not intuitive. Again, here you can, for the LFO, you can set an attack, a decay, and even a delay. And then you can change the rate in terms of modulation, which is great. And again, you can set the source here, which in this case could be velocity or could be poly-touch, after-touch. Oh, let's set it like that. Okay, it's great. And then you can change the level from a modulation perspective as well. Okay, so same for oscillator number 2. Then you have access to the filter. Okay, these again, you have DSC mixing here with different modulation and the different source. The same for noise. Here you have the resonance and cutoff. Okay, with the different setting from an envelope point of view, and then you can do modulation, right? Okay, which is great. And you can do 2 type of modulation, also the resonance in terms of modulation. Again, this is not straightforward, the modulation 1, modulation 2, in respect to what I found that a little bit bizarre. Then here on the filter, but not on the oscillator, you have access to the volume as well, some extra for calibration and revision, and then the pan is here. So you need to remember that if you want to access to the pan and you want to modulate it, is under filter. Interesting. And then, okay, again, here you have the typical controls, including the modulation itself. You can go to global as well, in terms of master volume, stereo wave, and your controller as well, your pitch, again, in terms of master. You can do MIDI CC maps. Again, you can do tuning table, velocity tables, a lot. Now, when you go to multi, at the moment, it doesn't say anything because this is a single. So let's initialize a multi. There you go, and you have an instrument here. And here you can see it says multi. It's quite interesting. It's already in red. And you click on it and it doesn't do anything in terms of the UI. Strange. You can initialize instrument number 1, you can copy it, you can clone to all the other instrument, copy from single or paste to single. I suppose there are some of the basic, but again, there's no feedback on this button in terms of UI, which is strange. Now, here it says instrument 1. There was enough space in my view, to make this wider and show what there is inside instrument 1, right? So you can go here, which is blank. You can select a bank and then an instrument, but still it's not reflecting here. You can see also the other 7 here after the first one are disabled, right? So the only way to activate that is there's no plus sign. You need to go to count and then you need to say 2. Again, this is probably a very old-fashioned way to actually make it work, but I suppose it works. Okay, let's add something else. You can do transposition, detuning, pan modulation, pan volume, and then of course you have access to setting here as additional setting here for instrument 2, or if you click here, instrument 1. Again, to me, it would have been better. There was like a kind of representation here between this one. Perhaps it could connect with a line to show which one is represented. Otherwise, you need to remember to check here. It says instrument 1 to actually go and check the different, for example, the key ranges here in terms of deciding how much they overlap and where they overlap as different layers. Here you have a master volume, of course. And then you have a wave envelope, which you can decide also at which position the key off point, and also at which point the loop start. That's not always intuitive, I must admit. But so you see, you have this sign here which tells you where to stop. So you can go there. And then you can decide the looping. Let me initialize a single so you see it a little bit better. So let me go down to this position so you can see maximum, then it's coming down. So let's press a note. She's going up to here, then he releases. Let's activate loop. And this is looping this last a bit here. Is represented 3 times. Interesting. So, and of course you can decide to, for example, increase the level here, which time it comes in. And you can see that is happening there. And at that point, you can decide which point you want the key off there. In the case you repeat this last part, because it's set up like that. So yeah, it works, and you can also do modulation against your time and the level, which is great. And then you have a filter envelope. This is your typical attack, decay, sustain, and release, ADSR. You can decide the source and the modulation for all of them, right? Which is great. Same for the amplitude here. And you can also change it, which is nice here. You can change up and down here the sustain, which you can see here. And then, you need to pick it up properly, which is a bit difficult in terms of mouse. So easier if I do this. Okay, and I change it, and then I can move left and right. To me, it works the opposite way here, using the mouse. But again, this perhaps is me. And then, of course, you can add some attack. Now, look at this, which I find quite interesting. Let's add some modulation here on the sustain, positive. So the modulation is working. But now let's double click here and set here and remove the modulation here for the sustain, right? And let's give it a longer decay and add the modulation here on the decay from LFO1. Interesting, don't hear it. Let's set this to default. Let's remove the sustain down. Let's introduce modulation here and try again. Let's reset this to default. I don't hear any difference. But interestingly, if I had the modulation on the sustain, it starts straight away on the decay. So to me, that is interesting, perhaps a bug. Okay, unless I'm missing something, this is a new synth for me as well. But it's nice that you can change the representation directly on the curve. And then, of course, you have LFO, as I mentioned earlier on. So it's pretty straightforward in terms of how they work. Again, we are in the initialized state, and therefore you don't have the banks here and the preset selected, which I find very strange. Now, let's choose some multi, like so. Okay, let's go to the next one. I don't know, it's okay as a synth, but I don't think it's anything special compared to synth like Synth Master 1 and 2 or some recent synths, including Discovery. But I suppose the point of this one is actually to bring that back, that microwave one as emulation. By the way, you can have access from setting from here, the bottom, click on it, and you change the setting here. I find that interesting. So you have a menu here, which, by the way, you click on the button, nothing changes on the button, but you have this button to working, but not this one as well. Bizarre. You can import from 6 file, which is great, mid file, which is fantastic, show user preset folder, which is great. It says check local microwave on one folder in your iPad's file app. Okay, that's great. Is it useful? Not sure. Cancel all voices in terms of panic, I suppose. You can go to the website, the manual, and then you have an about here, which is okay, right? The other thing as well is if I press a note and then I press hold, it doesn't hold the note. So you first have to press hold and then press the note. So if you press the note and hold that with your finger and then you press on the hold button, it doesn't work. So you have to press first hold and then going for the notes. Again, it seems a little bit not great. I find perhaps the new sound, the multi, in my opinion, are not superb. And also, as you notice, when you first load one, you have to wait. There is a little bit of delay. And this is an iPad Pro with an M1 chip, so it's a bit strange. It's already picking up here, so let's decrease the master volume. I find a lot of the sounds are very metallic, very digital. But that again is a bit of a preference. Okay, and you can see the volume here at maximum Y. Okay, let's go to the next one. I like some of the basses, they're really nice. But again, you see the cutoff is really down to low. Okay, so let's go back to AUM. Now, it says 3% here, so let's connect it to the AUM keyboard because I prefer to use this one than the internal one. It's picking, it's gone to 70%, something like that. Let's decrease the volume. Let's try again. 21%, interesting. Let's go for a factory multi. By the way, look at this circle in terms of UI. This doesn't look right either, but anyway. And you can hear that he was cutting there badly because, of course, he's using a multi and therefore it doesn't have enough polyphony. And that was only with 4 layers. Again, I would have pushed it, in my view. I would have added a different option here. That was a 25%. So I would have added another option to go to 16 voices and to duplicate those. So I think that would have made me a lot happier. Yes, of course, you can create multiple instances of Microwave 1 to expand on it. But if you have a great multi with a lot of instruments layered together, then you still cannot hold a decent chord, for example. So what's the point? really. So I'm sorry to be critical, but actually it's going to be honest review. So let's see here in terms of AU parameters. Okay, there are loads here, which is really great. That is actually good to see. There are a lot of different parameters which are available on the AUv3 version, which is really good. Okay, so, well, for me, this feels a little bit like first version, not finished. So the video is not sponsored, by the way, by Waldorf. So I acquired the instrument myself, and I decided to do a review. So to me, it looks and feels a little bit not quite finished yet in terms of ultimate product. It feels a little bit rushed out. I also find out at the same times the waveform as well don't render correctly. You can see some missing points as well. So probably this moving line needs to be checked there as well. So it's good to have it, I suppose, inside your arsenal or your studio as an additional synth, and to have that microwave one emulated. But is it essential? Not quite so sure with so many synths out there. Okay, anyway, I hope you enjoyed the review, and as always, see you next time. Bye.